All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin.
I want to talk about Hakim Ziyech, and I want to bring up this particular photo here before I go back to your screen again. Do you remember Hakim Ziyech's match against Atletico Madrid, that second leg, right?
Not really, but I'm watching your screen, so.
Do you remember the goal he scored? Like when Timo Werner broke through from the left and then he squared the ball in the middle and Hakim came in and into the box and he put that in? You remember that one, yeah?
Yep, of course.
So once again, that formation that people wouldn't think was a 3-4-2-1. But no, it wasn't really. That goal was literally Timo Werner and Ziyech, probably Timo Werner far left, and it was they were trying to create a situation, just like how Ryan has sort of explained, to create an overlap in a particular set of area and then switch the play to Timo, which was on the left side, and then create that space for him to run into the defense, and then it really opens things up, and that's when you saw Ziyech come into the box and Werner square the ball and Ziyech was able to score. This particular image, Ryan, you can see how many people say, well, how's Ziyech going to fit in this formation under Thomas Tuchel? You can clearly see that it all depends on how the players move and creates different formations to then accommodate for a player like Hakim Ziyech, for instance. So in this particular picture, we can see Timo Werner, his as the center at the moment. Havertz is just a tad behind him, more center of midfield. And Ziyech is literally hugging the touchline on the right. But have a look at all the situation that's happening in and around Ziyech. There's Reece James right behind him. Kante is very next to him. And then Azpilicueta just behind him. Seems like, once again, it's what you were saying, Ryan, a diamond that was getting created. And then there's a whole heap of space that's behind Hermoso and Jimenez, which is there for Timo Werner to attack, or even Ziyech to attack with the lines. So what's your understanding as to when people say, oh, but how's Ziyech going to fit in here? But we can clearly see that it can be done. You're on mute, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that a player like Ziyech I think that he's a gem of a player to have, to be honest. And I'm a huge fan of Ziyech. And I think that he can bring a different dimension to us, especially with regard to ball playing. I think that under Tuchel so far that we've seen that we got back the screen here. Under Tuchel so far in the 3-4-1-2, all the times we saw Ziyech thrive was when he was able to drop deep and become a part of the diamond, but not the tip of the diamond. And that's one thing that I think that just maneuvering this, why it's so important to have a player like a right wing back who can overlap and who could run in behind and who could be that winger like right wing back, because it allows Ziyech to drop into here and have more of a ball playing responsibility. And if there's defenders marking the right wing back and the strikers, then it would do a sort of Jorginho thing where you would allow space and time for a player like Ziyech to do his magic. And that's what he had at Ajax.
Yep.
He was able to drop there because what Ajax used to do is that you know how we talked about overloads before?
Yes.
So I call this a vertical overload because we can see we overload vertically, right? What Ajax used to do is they used to do a horizontal overload, and they kind of used to set up like this. And this is where Ziyech used to drop into a lot of the time. And then he could have the reign to roam here, where he could pick out those switches of play, or he could pick balls in behind, or he could cut in and shoot with his left. And
do you reckon that's probably one of the biggest reasons why when he would cut in on his left, and he'd generally find whoever's on the left side, far left, and most of the times his crosses would be tapped in on that left side, because they were purposely creating that opportunity for him?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's very important to allow Ziyech to have that space and that time. And having this overload up here put the the opposition's defenders with full hands. They had full responsibility to mark these three players. So Ziyech had the free reign to drop between the lines unmarked and mimic play. I mean, not mimic, sorry, but control play from there. And I want to bring it back to our formation where we use that having a player like a wing back who can overlap, it allows Ziyech to drop into that position where we need him to be, creating a kind of shape like this on the left. And this is the same shape Bielsa uses in his 3-3-1-3, and that we used when Mount played in the midfield pivot. This is what we used here. We had Jorginho and Mount, and then we'd have somebody connect and play. That's why it's so important to have a player here that can overlap, because when we have a Reece James, for instance, who is here and he does not overlap, then Ziyech has to be the tip of the diamond. And when Ziyech plays with his back towards goal, being the tip of the diamond, having a defender on his back, that's where you can see he can lose the ball. He would have a bad first touch, and he wouldn't be as impactful as he would be because he isn't afforded that time and space between the lines. Instead, he is surrounded and rushed. And that's why it's so important to sort out this position here. And that's why Tuchel rather has Aspilicueta there instead of Reece James, because we need somebody who could overlap and allow our players to have that freedom to drop between the lines if needed.
100%. 100%. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what I think about Ziyech.
Nah, man, spot on, man. Come on, you Blues TV. This is a proper comment, man. Wait, and I want to see what Ryan has to say about this. So Ziyech was almost in a way the heartbeat of that Ajax team, like Jorginho is with us in that aspect of having players surrounding the players. Honestly, I saw a lot of that Ajax when Ziyech was around, especially that season where they were doing a madness in the Champions League, and the season after, which was Frank Lampard's first season. You're right. There was a lot of times Ziyech, and as Ryan has said, Ziyech was dropping from his wing position, dropping into midfield, where there would be an overload on the right side, and then you'd see Quincy Promes and Tagliafico on the left-hand side really bombing into the box, and Ziyech would find the diagonal passes. And yes, the side would then overlap, allowing Ziyech to come in. Whereas last season, it wasn't always happening, as Ryan said, that Ziyech would find himself as the furthest on the right side, and there wouldn't be any overlaps that would come. And this is why we were linked with Hakimi, because Hakimi would do that. Hakimi's connection with Ziyech would have been unbelievable. Not to say Reece James can't do that. Maybe he can develop, but I think Reece James is a bit better in terms of being a right centre back. And as a right centre back, you're going to have to, evolve this season where you will need to overlap, as Ryan said once again. Ryan, what do you think about this particular comment from Come On You Blues TV?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Is that just sorting out like how he did at Ajax here. Just bear with me. I forgot some people's names. But yeah, this is kind of how he did it with Ajax. Are you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Right. So this is how he did it with Ajax here. As we talked about, they had a horizontal overload. And to that comment is that I think that Ziyech was, I wouldn't say he was the heartbeat of the team. I think that De Jong was the heartbeat of the team. But I would say that it had players surrounded him where he could have dropped in between the lines unmarked. Because, I mean, how is a defender going to reach Ziyech from here when you have 5 players who can threat? Then you have 2 players, connector players, who can be there for the switch of play. Ajax is a crazy team, man. You'd even see Blin overlapping too and leaving Dillit alone as a sweeper. It was a crazy team to see unfold, and it was beautiful to see. But yeah, Ziyech, as we talked, we said a lot, we need Ziyech to have that time and space on the ball because he can create magic. One thing we talk a lot about is Ziyech switching play, which, is a huge part of his game. But do you realize he always does those one-touch little flicks and it never reaches anybody because nobody reads it?
Yeah, nobody's reading it. Yeah.
Because due to the overload in Ajax, right? The
Yeah.
horizontal overload, it used to get in a position there where you had a that kind of formation there, that shape.
Mm.
And these players used to integrate so much and make little triangles and rotate so much that they did one touch to the man passes to get in behind. And they were so fast and slick and quick with it, and it was so programmed in their mind the way they play that Ziyech has that programming still into him. He does those quick one touches, but other players aren't on the same mindset as him. Wavelength as him. And I don't think it's because Ziyech gives away play, he doesn't read. I think he's just 2 steps in front, but still the other team isn't, the other teammates aren't, and that's the problem. That's why you see him misplay so much passes too on flicks.
Yeah,
but
no.
you can see the comparisons though. You can see why Ziyech plays the way he plays at Chelsea.
Yeah, and that's why I have to say when he was under Frank Lampard, because under Frank Lampard we saw Reece James bomb up a little bit more, being a right back. He was bombing up a lot more, and we saw Ziyech do a little bit more similar stuff as he was doing for Ajax. But under Thomas Tuchel, the right wing back is just not sort of in the same wavelength as yet as to what they need to do. And I'm hoping that the right wing back understands that it does need to overlap and create that width so that someone like Ziyech is not penciled in on the right side if he does play. But it's so important. Well said. All right.